When the leading global manufacturer of an industry asks a small cap company for samples of its products for evaluation, you should pay attention. And that's exactly what's happened with HPQ Silicon, who just had the leading global manufacturer of fumed silica request samples from HPQ's first batch of fumed silica, created under a completely new, cleaner, cheaper, and in my opinion, superior process. By the way, fumed silica is used in everything from food and cosmetics to construction and manufacturing. And here to talk about that is Bernard Tourion, CEO. Bernard, welcome back, my friend.
Hey, George, we're finally getting there. We're finally
Headline:
getting there.
Leading global manufacturer requests HPQ's first batch of fumed silica for evaluation. This isn't a milestone per se of the kind of milestones you've been achieving in the lab and at pilot scale, but how important is this, especially given the fact this request has come earlier than expected?
Well, earlier than we thought we would have wanted to, because we probably were wanting to send perfect material, but they're ready to take a look at it, and we're ready to get their view into it, because we know what we're looking in that what they're looking for, which is going to be the morphology of the material. So we understand a lot of issues. So they've been eager to take a look at this material, and as we move forward with our process and proven that we can recuperate material in the baghouse, aka that we've proven the scalability from lab scale to pilot scale, they have a pretty good idea what the material is going to be. Remember, they've analyzed the material from lab scale, and they've validated that it is fumed silica.
By the way, you refer to the company as leading global manufacturer, but you refer to the press release. It's obviously Evonik. Why not use Evonik's name in the press release?
At one point, when you overuse the name of the company, it doesn't mean anything. And we're also in discussion with other groups, so it plays into it. And then regulators, give you a pain in the butt whenever you use, the name of a bigger company, multi-billion-dollar companies, small companies. So, they keep asking you. So it's like, okay, let's just use this. It's going to be simpler. Everybody knows we're talking about. If you don't know, just go read the press release. And it's a small world. There's 5 top companies in this. So
does this request officially take your relationship to the collaboration stage? I'll tell you why I ask, because here's the excerpt, the quote: "This collaboration gives us access to over 80 years of real-world manufacturing and market expertise, an advantage that accelerates our development and strengthens our commercialization efforts. It's a rare and valuable opportunity." It sounds like, send the samples, they're going to look at it. Obviously, they're going to make comments and suggestions and other things. But does this really take your relationship to the next level?
Well, that was the entire goal behind the LOI. Okay. We didn't want to give away anything, but they wanted to have an opportunity to take a look at it. So in a certain way, we have access to their 80 years of experience for our own personal gain. Okay. So we get to do them. They indirectly get the advantage of being the first one to really see the material, take a look at it. But remember, there's no exclusivity. So it's just a quid pro quo in a certain way. They'll do the testing for free for us. The advantage of this is they've seen fumed silica. They've seen fumed silica from multiple manufacturers around the world. So the lead time to get the results is going to be much faster. So it will allow us to work faster on our final adjustment as we aim toward making 300 superficie, whatever the term. Sorry, it's a Bernieism, but the size 300. Anyway, the 300 size or 300 quality material. So it's going to be this is where we're going to be playing on those issues and getting that moving, because we're playing around the morphology.
So this
Of the
isn't
material.
This isn't a straight up go no go decision, right? Some people might be thinking, okay, you're shipping samples and it's going to be
We're
very
past
binary.
that, George.
It's good or it's bad. It's not a go no
I
go. This is
I don't get this. The go no go has been, in my mind, has been passed. Okay. And as Peter said in the previous press release, when we started to get material back in the bag house, which basically means that the scaling up, which is 20 times, or somebody told me I should say it's more than 2,000% when it's 20 times. I don't know if it's exact numbers, but it's a massive scale up. Okay. That's when we started to pick up material in the go time. When you talk to the engineer, everybody's like, okay, we're heading in this direction. This machine's gonna work. Like we're there. So it's this is the message I want shareholder to understand. Okay. The project has been completely, not completely, has been significantly de-risked. Okay. We're in the right direction. And now our commercial options are opening up. That's literally what it means. So we're getting to be much more into a basically a stronger negotiation position or discussion position because I said this many, many times, and I think people keep forgetting. There is no differentiation between a 150 material made by product A, product B, product C, and what we're going to be doing. Other than ours is going to be the only one that does not have HCI into it, okay? Which therefore makes it impossible for us to send bogus sample because our process doesn't have that material. Therefore, it's always guarantees to come for a process. It's as simple as that. Okay.
So let's talk about, okay, since you're talking about commercialization, um, is this when commercial negotiations start to ramp up? Because you've had some shareholders for a while saying, sign a deal. And for a long time, you've been saying you don't want to sign a deal earlier because you're weaker. Are you almost at the position, assuming everything goes well with the testing, which
Mm-hmm.
I guess you guys assume it's going to go well,
Mm-hmm.
subject to some adjustments and changes and some customizations, all that. Are you pretty
Mm-hmm.
much at that point now where you start having commercial negotiations about how this relationship is gonna look? You start getting commitments and start getting to that point.
It's we're starting to dance for that. Okay. And as I said, we're in a much stronger position to do that dance before. All right. Because when we only had lab scale, okay, we had the milestone of proving that technology can be scaled up, which we've sort of passed that milestone. And we had the milestone of saying we've produced material in the bag house, basically, which is what we need to collect to make it economically and get it to move. And now we're looking at the material. We understand the impurities are in it, where they come from, how that's going to be resolved, how that's not going to be an issue at commercial scale. And all for a series of reasons of understanding how the process works. So the key point to understand is that I'm finally in the position where I can start to negotiate and get optionality. All right. At one point, when you only have one person that's really dancing with you, you don't really have that many options. But now this is changing, okay? Because there's multiple business cases that are coming through, they're going to come out of this. Because the reality is that fumed silica, okay, the market is not disappearing, and the traditional manufacturing process is expensive, complicated, all right, and dirty, while ours is simple. And as I said last time, we go directly from quartz to fumed silica, okay? There is no way you can compare our process to the traditional process, which starts with quartz to silicon metal, that then has to be basically transformed into silicon tetrachloride, which is a byproduct of basically upgrading silicon metal to uh, polysilicon for electronics. Okay. So that waste material, which is full of impurities, full of chemical dangerosity, okay, is then burned with hydrogen. And I've heard some futster trying to make a thing of, the energy consumption of that is going to be higher. Completely doesn't make any sense. They burn it, okay? When they finish the process, they make more hydrogen chloride gas than they do fumed silica. So they have to deal with that chemical process. So you understand how complicated their value chain is for dealing from feedstock to dealing with the material and dealing with the byproducts. Ours, quartz, powder. So it's sort of a no-brainer. It really comes down to what I kept saying. It looks too good to be true. And I will tell you sort of a joke, since the beginning, the guys at the world leading manufacturing company um, were curious about doing it. Says, we'll just look at it because it's really too good to be true, but we don't think it's going to work. But what's been happening on a regular basis is we keep reaching the milestone. Now they're there, somebody else is there, more people want to talk with us.
Well, and in PyroGenesis press release, because in your press release, you talk about one entity, the leading global manufacturer. In PyroGenesis, they say we received multiple requests for delivery of fumed
Mhm.
silica powder for further analysis by potential clients. These
Mhm.
powders will be shipped within 10 days. And when you take a look at it, to me, it's two. It's two. Why are you mentioning one? Why is PyroGenesis mentioning two?
Basically, since the beginning, the one I've been always mentioning and talking about is the number one. And that seems to be the one that's the most important to get things advanced. And I wanted people to realize the importance of them starting to take a look at it earlier. Okay. Because for number two, the reason why Peter says 10 days is because it's not going to come from batch number four. Okay. It's going to come from the other batch, which we believe is going to be even better quality with no byproduct. So it's like we know that our first batch is fumed silica, but there's contaminant into it. We've announced it. We've said it. We said there's no worry removing it. We understand this. But even with that, the world leading, they wanted to take a look at this because the rest is unimportant. It just does it look like fumed silica? What is the true mass, the distribution, the size, and those things. So once we start getting those material, it's going to be moving forward. So that's really one of the reasons. Like for me, it's like, okay, we're sending this one, which is from batch four, and the other one's going to come from batch five or batch six. And there might be other ones. I have somebody yesterday who says, oh, but I know a client that might be interested. Do you want to sign it? Do we sign an NDA for them to get material too? So it's once we start to have commercial material, they'll be moving more and more into it. So the key to understand is just a question of sort of like marketing the story. For me, it is getting investors to realize, okay, that one of the parties we're discussing with, okay, have 80 years of experience doing this. They understand the material, okay, and they've already validated we do, so they already know we should be coming out. So I think that's going to be the other one's going to be a new relationship to start and to get it moving. I think we only send them. I think the only one we only send them like 30 grand the first time, and we never got any feedback from them on it. The fact that they're asking for material now that we have more is very positive. It's an extraordinary positive step, especially when you knew the size of the entity we're dealing with. Okay. These are sort of the entities that I think need 12 signature before they send you a pen. Like it's just the way it works, which is one of the reasons why the world leading manufacturers prefers that we do the R&D, we get the system up really working before they come in because they have a bigger administrative workload to do the same type of thing we do. So we can be much faster, much more efficient, much more rapid to market. But they want to be there to be able to say, whoops, it's ready to go. Here's the big check. So that's a key point.
Okay, so let me ask you, and if I'm putting the cart before the horse, tell me. And obviously, we can't speak for other parties, but
Mhm.
have you and Peter, have you guys figured out what is the ideal commercial agreement for you? Like, they could be outright sale, it could be a joint venture, it could be licensing, it could be white label manufacturing, or a combination of that. Have you guys figured out what your preferred and commercial relationships look like?
No, and I'll say why. It's because, one of them is sort of like Dreamscape. We can do all those type of dream strategy, but until we started to make the material, wasn't really worth our while. And there's multiple reasons. There's going to be sort of different um, business advantage to strategy. For HPQ Silica Pulveris, which is a subsidiary that does this, okay, which is going to be a 50-50 company with Pyro. For us, it's going to be what's going to be the best deal for us, either with licensing the technology getting the revenue stream or us manufacturing, all those options with regard to capital costs and how we finance this. For Pyro, they have the additional advantage within the contract. The equipment we have to, the production entity, whomever it is, will have to buy the equipment from them. So that's where there's a bit of differentiation how the business interest could be because he might have one business interest compared to the other one, but everything aligns the same direction. It doesn't really change anything. So the key point is our negotiation position with each positive, successful test becomes strengthened.
Fair to say, I think we've touched on this in the past, but fair to say, without putting timelines on, because you don't like using timelines, so I'll say in 2025,
Mhm.
but that doesn't mean December 31st for me either. But in 2025, how confident are you that you will have a or multiple commercial agreements in place so that your path, even though you've said before you won't be in full production of 2028, your path is already set, you've got it, and then it's you know what your path is going to be like. Is it
Well,
fair
it's
to
gonna
say
it's
2025 is gonna bring that one or
yeah.
more of those?
The moment we finish the batch testing part and we start going semi-continuous, okay, we therefore already have a demonstratable system that can work commercially, which the first commercial one will be another 20 times scaling up of that one. But since we've just proven it from lab scale to this one, it will happen. And usually there's certain scale advantage that's going to work better than at other scales. So we're already going to be there to be able to start to discuss and having those conversations. We'll have a working prototype. So we're going to be in a very good position to entertain this. And by 2025, have defined a clear view, which could go from the gauntlet of any one of the large company decided to take an interesting stake into the subsidiary, which values it that's tremendously high value, to an offtake agreement, white label agreement, whatever the process is for one geographic area and then expanding further else. In the LOI, the discussion, and we didn't really talk about it because until we started making the stuff, it became unavailable. But they that company does have an interest of buying every ounce of fumed silica we do. Okay. But since there was no monetary exchange, there's no exclusivity. So we're not bound by that agreement. We'll be bound once we have a bounding one, but that's the general concept of what we're doing. Like if they want this, they want this to be bound, they got to put some dollar signs into it. I understand that then big companies are always like that. Okay, they don't care paying more if it's the risk is less. Now, a
Yeah,
lot of a lot of retail
absolutely.
investors don't understand that thinking. Okay, they're saying, but they should be buying now. Those big companies don't really care if they pay more if the risk is low because then if within their financial models they make above what is the benchline that the board has demanded they do on the return of project, okay, they're happy. Us small companies, we want the maximum ROI and those type of projects, so we think differently. So you have to understand that who you're dealing with on the other side.
Yeah, big companies
But
aren't speculators. They don't need to get in early because if it
they don't
fails,
need to
then
get in
that's
early.
100% lost money. They'd rather put more money to work later when there's a lot more certainty. That's for sure. They're not speculators.
The only thing that's going to change them to start moving faster, okay, is us demonstrating technology work. Therefore, we become an existential threat to the entire fume silica industry. And I'm not joking when I say this, okay? Remember, quartz directly to fume silica. It's like
Yeah,
our
look,
system,
this
our
could be a
costing has been designed. That's what it is. We're not yet enough of an existential threat, okay? But if you look at the milestone we've been hitting in 2025, which I know is a year later than it should be, but we're hitting them, okay? We're getting closer to that moment. When is that going to happen? I don't know. But I can tell you the fact that the number two guy, okay, who hasn't spoken to me in a long time, when I send him just the email of the press release that we mentioned, the one where we showed the pictures of the fume silica, says, okay, can you send me samples?
how much has the the tariff war or the tariff threats also played it have also played into an advantage for you because I've got to imagine your modularity, the ability to put smaller modules with a lot less capex is going to be an advantage. Because if I'm shipping product from Europe to the U.S. or Asia to the U.S.,
Mm-hmm.
I'm I might face as little as 10% in tariffs. The other day, Trump said to Europe, "Hey, if you guys don't snap into better negotiating and start being more, it's going to be 50%."
Mm-hmm.
So, how much more of an advantage has that created for you? Because you can look at anybody in the world and say, we can drop modules wherever we want them. We don't need to create $300 million capex, massive
It's not
facilities.
okay, George. It's not $300 million capex. It's $3 billion capex because you cannot have a fumed silica plant in a traditional process without a polysilicon plant, without a smelter to convert quartz into silicon metal. To get this, like we're talking billions of dollars of capital investment put into it. So when we say existential threat, we actually this is one of the reasons why they operate with just so low margins because it deals with them with their waste byproduct and in the overall scheme of other things that's that 20% margin if you add it up to the other process might plays into it, but if that 20% margin disappear, it means the other part of the two other process become more expensive for them. So, and I wasn't this, how can I say, this bullish about saying this until we at least made the stuff, got the stuff, demonstrated it's done. Now I can be more bullish about it. Because there's an old saying: until you've done it, until the fat lady sings, the fat lady hasn't sung. And in this case, okay, it was until we started to make material and picked it up in the baghouse. For us, that was the big milestone, which basically says to people, "Hey, this is getting to be serious." Now, it's gonna take a little bit of while time to perspire everywhere else. But think about this logically, guys. Okay, when we announced the LOI, we went up to 43 cents on the speculation that something big was coming. Okay. And we then corrected from that price because it took us longer to get where we are now. Nothing has changed, if not that the fume silica part is much more advanced. We know it will become an existential threat once we've demonstrated on a continuous operation the system. But the biggest threshold for us to reach that point was basically making material in the baghouse. Now we're moving toward that part. We're reaching the milestone. We're moving forward. Both companies, HPQ and Pyro, are very confident that we're going to reach that goal. And now we feel confident enough to send them material that's even material that's not perfect because we know we'll get some information out of it that'll help us tweak into it because they might say, oh, okay, if just these few little things can move forward.
Before Netflix started streaming,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people may remember this, a lot of younger guys may not.
No, may not.
But Netflix's business model first started by literally shipping you DVDs. You would order it, they would ship you the DVDs. You could
Mm-hmm.
keep them as long as you want to watch them, then you had to ship them back to get more DVDs. And Blockbuster didn't take them seriously, and they became the existential, ultimately not just a threat, but the existential fact for Blockbuster.
Mm-hmm.
Are you at that Netflix stage where you're shipping CDs right now, or about to start shipping CD? Yeah, you haven't started shipping. So, are you on the cusp of shipping the CDs and being really able to position yourself for everyone to see as, man, this is an existential threat? How close are you to being that existential threat?
I would say it's not a question of shipping DVD in your analogy. Okay. In our case, it is making fume silica directly from quartz that is of commercial quality and at a commercial size with a commercial process. Okay. That's the existential threat to the industry. Okay. So we're at that cusp where we're basically telling people, hey, we can do like at the beginning, I didn't think streaming was going to work. I remember a friend of mine who was an analyst telling me it's going to work because of the buffering all the information. I thought there was too many technical challenges for it. and it came in. So this is where we are. So people in the industry and outside of the industry that are financing, looking into financial model into this, um, are going to be looking at this as very, very exciting because people are willing to pay a big amount of money for a steady revenue stream with low risk, no environmental risk, none of those issues. And this is what we're starting to demonstrate. We haven't fully demonstrated. We're on target for doing it. So, and the funny thing, and you mentioned something about the tariffs, and I didn't reply to it at that moment. But the specificity of what HPQ has always been looking at is how, because a lot of the people were talking about reshoring manufacturing. The problem with reshoring, there was a reason why projects were offshore. Okay, a lot of it is related to the environmental issues related to this. So since the beginning, our approach has been looking how we can reshore material, but what without replicating the errors of the past, which is basically building something too big. And so we work very hard at designing what we consider scalable processes to be able to do it. And that's what the fumed silica reactor is. It's a scalable process. Remember, fumed silica is an extremely light material. Okay. If you want to have a ton of quartz, it'll fit into a pickup truck. If you want a ton of fumed silica, it'll take 2, 3 containers because it's very light. So you end up shipping a lot of volume. Therefore, just on an has the scale before didn't allow to have geographical position. So there's a lot of markets that are basically just supplied by coming from other places like Canada, okay, which is about a $200 million US a year, maybe 150, $100 million, $150 million a year market, which there's no local supplier. That's US dollars. Okay. That's a market that we can easily take alt by ourselves just by being able to do it. The only thing we need is to have access to the energy, green energy, and quartz. There's quartz in Canada. This is all part of the government initiative they want to do. Same discussion I'm having with Australia. They have no fumed silica manufacturer there. You can basically create a fortress, a sort of a dome manufacturing concept to take that word. So the optionality that we have to monetize these technologies are growing exponentially.
Yeah.
The risk factor associated has been decreased significantly. Okay. If you look in a purely business side, now people are gonna, I know that people are gonna tell me, you look at the share price. Share price are sometimes forward-looking indicator or backward-looking indicator. Right now, the share price reflects more the delays that we had to get here. They're not really reflecting the potential of what we have in the fumed silica, in the batteries, in the hydrogen. So, uh, you know, we are in a good spot. We have a good technology, and it's demonstrating it's moving forward.
Last question, and I know you hate timelines, but I got to ask. Um, I'm going to make the assumption that the two leading manufacturers who have requested samples, they are chomping at the bit as soon as they receive them. Like they are going to be a high priority. They're immediately going to run their tests and do whatever they got to do, right? For the rest of us who aren't experts at this, I know you can't speak to their timing for either party or both parties, but whenever they start the process of testing these samples, how long do you think they would need? Is this something that takes weeks, that takes days, that takes hours? What does that look like? Not that you give us a timeline, but if George Calm Silica was receiving your samples today, I'm a serious company out of Greece and I'm a big serious company. How long would I need with your samples to run whatever tests I need to run to figure out if, this is the goods?
What I've been told, and if you're serious companies, it will be days, as opposed to if we go to outside laboratories, it will be weeks.
All right.
Now, but then
That's
again, we might not publish it. There's gonna be some back and forth exchanges of material. The goal for us is to have at one point one of them saying, okay, this meets this criteria, and that in the LOI we're allowed to publish it. We'll do it. In the meantime, as I said in the press release, it's for us. It's a great feedback. That's faster then we still need, the quickly looking at a TM, see what it looks like, so we have an idea. But then we have to figure out all the other details and get some conversation, and probably end up having some, technical discussion between people to just to finalize the material and eventually organize a site visit for the people to come up. So everything is a dynamic moving forward. The key message I want to pass is it's de-risked. We finally sent material, so now people can stop speculating about it. Okay, and I want to address a point that some of the, how can I say, see, the people that are trying to make a negative case about HPQ based on our past record, they keep referencing back to the nano reactor situation and the fact that yes, we did have an order from a lead EV manufacturer, but as we wrote in the communication, okay, the order was based on basically a PowerPoint presentation, what we thought we could do. Okay. So anybody making a reference to the simplicity of this is not the same thing. A, we've done it. B, it's been validated. C, we're at the light. We're at pilot scale. So stop talking about this. It's a demonstration that we've learned from the process. We got it moving forward. When we're talking about it, we've demonstrated it. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because people keep bringing this up to scare investors that are trying to take a look at the story. The fact is, investors should take a look at this, okay? Is that our process works. We can make fumed silica directly from quartz, which nobody else in the world can do. And of course, the cost is going to be much cheaper. It's just like logical about it. It's like it's.
I think they just, I haven't even seen that, but then again, maybe I'm not looking for as much as you are, but
Not a question of looking at it. It's like
you've got some pretty
I
desperate people who have other motivations, right? Let's face that.
yeah,
And
no,
I'm going to tell them
but
again, and I love the reaction I got last time. I laugh at them, right?
I
So
know.
keep.
But I've been told by some investors, some investors have significant positions, they like it when I sort of like call out their BS, okay? Because they're inventing BS against me. And by the way, in Quebec, okay, I have 3 years before I decide to sue people for defamation. And God Almighty, some people are making some pretty incredible defamatory statements against me.
Nice.
Like I got 3 years to wait. So I'm in no rush. My priority is not there. Like it's not a big thing. But screenshots can be used, and that's it. It's like, but I'm in no rush. But some people are inventing like completely silly comments and they're all trying to minimize what we've accomplished. What we've accomplished is massive. We figured a way to do at commercial scale convert quartz into fumed silica. Enough so that at least two of the world leading fumed silica manufacturers are interested in their material. Now we have an LOI with one, we have other things with the other one, but as Pyro mentioned.
Actually,
And
I want to talk about that, the others, but I will finish your
hmm,
thought there with,
my rant.
we know there are guys who are paid and they're getting desperate because there are shorts out there. I know this. I'm not saying this in your bed, but there are, generally speaking, I won't even talk about HPQ. There are shorts in this world who pay people to do this kind of stuff. And
Mhm.
good luck. They're comical. They make me laugh. So let's forget about them. I did want to expand on that, what you just finished off with, because I said that was my final question, but now I have a final question. As partners, like number one and number two, hopefully, because we can't say for sure, come forth and say, yeah, it looks pretty good. Minor changes, optimizations, little things here and there, but looking good. If we're playing chess, doesn't that bring out party number three and party number four? Does that suddenly create potentially a real rush to make deals with you? Because that's what I'd be worried about if I was number one and two. I'm saying, hey, as soon as I validate this, I better validate this. And I'm just thinking, I better validate this and come with strong commercial terms. Because if I don't, I'm telling the rest of the world that this looks good. And then I'm
That
leaving the
has
door open
always
for
been.
three, four, and five and other parties to come forward and say, let's talk.
It comes back to the two arguments I said. Okay, big companies, okay, don't want to speculate. They want to pay on something that makes financial side for them. So they're willing to come in later. Okay. But that doesn't mean big companies don't end up having the bidding war because they waited so late to come in that the technology is proven. Now, my strategy and Pyro's strategy has sort of been to play that game. It's been painful. Okay. If we just were interested in getting the stock out, we could have probably made a bad deal, like I see a lot of companies do, that ends up blowing up in their face. Just to bring one, what was the company, the lithium company that went belly up? Anyway, the big lithium company in Quebec that went belly up. The reason why they went belly up is they signed an offtake agreement too early under conditions that were so stringent that when the cost overrun came in, they couldn't get out of it because they've given away the shop. Okay? I'm not giving away the shop. We haven't signed anything. We haven't given any exclusivity. Okay?
By
It's been more
design.
painful. It's more painful for me as a large shareholders and as the president gets, I get the flowers and the pots too, but that's part of. But there's a reason for this. I've looked at many of those companies. I remember once I was studying a gold company. Okay, they were all bragging about their offtake agreement for their gold. Then you made the math. Wait a minute, they're selling gold below the price it's costing them to mine them. That doesn't make any sense. So it's a balancing act. Now the point is, at one point of the balancing act, okay, and it's sort of a seesaw. At one point in the seesaw, it goes to your side, the advantage. And I believe that we're on a trajectory to be definitely on our side because I have discussion with multiple groups that are going to be interested in financing. Once we demonstrate the material can be done, we can demonstrate a business case for Canada that could be brilliant to be financed by the governments to get us started, get banks. Everybody's going to come in because the risk is going to be lower. Think about this. For an investor to have a guaranteed return or a pretty secure return over a long time in an industrial field is something they love. It's a type of royalty. It's a type of financing thing. These are the multiple options that we're now having before us.
That's awesome. That's the optionality.
Optionality.
And we're going to leave it on that strong, powerful note right there. Bernard, congratulations to you, the team, Peter, and everybody. I'm sure I'm going to do another interview with Peter at some point on this nice piece of development. It's not a milestone per se, but this necessary development in your commercial track. So looking forward to the next one. I guess what we're all, if I had to speak out loud, we're all looking forward to, getting the thumbs up for one or two or both of these parties as to the quality of everything. And we can't wait for that. I don't know when that's going to be, but in the meantime, we're celebrating this.
I think the next one's going to be about our other verticalities that are also advancing right now. We've been overly focused on talking fumed silica because we've reached some significant milestones. But our other projects are moving forward, which is sort of funny because for a long time people were saying, "Talk to us about fumed silica. Talk to us." Now I'm talking fumed silica. Talk to me about batteries. Talk to me about hydrogen. Okay.
Well, whatever you're doing it right. So congratulations. Can't wait to have you back, my friend.
Thank
and
you.
for everybody at home, thanks for watching. Wish you a great day. And if you're getting tired of the fudsters, and I'm seeing this on other message boards that are just causing trouble, and you're at that point where you're feeling good about the company, and you have serious conversations, head over to the Agoracom forum. That's the place. Civilized, constructive, none of the nonsense. Because if you feel like HPQ is just getting to that point where it's de-risking, and on the verge of really being a set disruptor, then get over to Agoracom. We'd love to have you there. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Have a great day. See you next time.
Hey, small cap fam. I hope you loved this interview because more than a dozen people were involved in its production for the sole purpose of making you happy. If so, can you take a moment to support both our awesome guest company and Agoracom? Your engagement means the world to us. First, if you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up by tapping that like button. It's a small gesture that helps this interview reach even more potential investors to discover today's guest. Second, we would love to hear your feedback on this interview, so please leave a comment below. Be sure to keep it clean, but feel free to poke fun at George. If you loved what you heard on today's video and want to dig into our guest company right away, take a look at the links in the description below. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell to never miss another great Agoracom small cap video. Thank you so much. We couldn't do any of this without you. Make sure to come back soon.